11-1 with a loss to the Denver Broncos today in Denver. Jen, this was a tough showing by the Lions. The injuries have really been a problem for them, and we saw that today.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I heard one of the Broncos players being interviewed going off the field. I couldn't see who it was, but I could hear the audio. And he was essentially saying, we are beat up and we showed a lot of grit today. And every NFL team in Week 16 can pretty much say the same thing for the Lions. I mean, certainly they were down to 5 starters on offense, regulars, and on defense, decimated as well in the front 7. So that can be a little bit of an explanation, but it certainly is no excuse. There were a lot of things that were here for the Lions today, and they didn't seem to capitalize.
Certainly. I mean, the Lions fall 27-17. Of course, they did have a lead at certain points in this game, which is what we've seen from them often this season, but just being unable to pull it out in the second half. For me, one of the biggest problems they had today was not being able to stop Denver's run game. I mean, Phillip Lindsay had 19 carries for 109 yards, over a 100-yard day for him, rushing touchdowns from him, and it was just hard for them to stop the run. I think that injured linebacking core is part of that.
Absolutely. The injured linebacking core is one of the areas you can look to, but also, too, when they wanted to pick up like a 3rd and 3 or something like that, they would just go across the middle. I mean, they really exploited the Lions' defense across the middle with either a slant. They ran right up the teeth of them. They had, I think, 109, make that 150 yards total rushing today. Denver did. And for a lot of the talk of the pressure that we were expecting along the front line with guys like Snacks and also Trey Flowers, it really was the Denver front 4 that put all of the pressure today on Blau. 6 sacks was huge. And granted, Detroit had 2/5 of its starting offensive linemen missing, but it was really tough to get protection. I mean, when you've got Crosby going one-on-one with Von Miller, I mean, there are going to be some definite shortcomings.
Of course, you do have Tyrell Crosby, who was starting at the right tackle position for Rick Wagner. Obviously, we saw Kenny Wiggins go to IR earlier this week. Ode Abushi was playing there at the guard position. At one point, Taylor Decker even went out of this game. Tyrell Crosby swung over to Decker's spot, and then we saw Dan Skipper step in at that right tackle position. So this offensive line dealt with a lot of injuries, more of that today. And I mentioned that linebacking core as well. Jelani Tavai went out of this game with a shoulder injury. He was stepping in for the injured Jared Davis. Christian Jones, obviously, not in this game either. So at the linebacking position, we saw Jalen Reeves-Maben, we saw Stephen Longa, we saw Devon Kennard, but lots of injuries.
And let's make a point about that Longa late hit out of bounds. He was pushed. There is a camera angle from behind. He was shoved by one of the Denver players, and that really was a bogus call because it changed the complexion of the game. And also with that Kenny Golladay drop, that was something huge when the game was kind of still in the balance and the Lions still had an opportunity. Speaking of injuries, they're beat up when at one point Dan Skipper was out there playing on defense on the goal line stand, and they ran right at him and right up the middle. So it certainly was a tough day, and I mean, what can you say about Golladay? He's had a tremendous season, but it seems like some of these things that befall him come at critical times. But he now joins Calvin Johnson and Herman Moore, the only other Lions to have 1,100 yards receiving and 11 touchdowns in the same season. So he's had an amazing season, but they've just really not had much help. It was good to see Kerryon Johnson back out there today. I actually had a debate with several different writers and reporters last night about whether or not he should be activated and come back, and I said I didn't think that was necessary. But he is only in his 2nd year. He still needs some live reps, and he actually looked pretty good out there, and fortunately they got him out by the end. No harm, no foul, but I would like to see him not maybe get as much time next week. I know he wants to play. I know a lot of these guys want to play, but boy, this time of year when you've lost 8 straight, they're now, I think, in the top 5 in the pick for 2020 in the draft. I would like to see him not play as much because they've seen some other guys that were productive in the rushing game.
Well, we talked to Kerryon in the locker room this week. He made it clear that he wants to be out there. He has hated having to miss as much football as he has. But we got to see a Kerryon Johnson and Bo Scarborough backfield for the first time today. Kerryon had 10 carries for 42 yards, Bo Scarborough, 8 carries for 34 yards, one really big, I believe, 18-yard pickup that he had today. It was a decent backfield duo.
Absolutely, and 4.2 yards per carry for carry-on, I think, is a good sign when he comes back, especially off of a knee injury. And he made one cut today that looked really good, so you feel like his health is there. Another thing that was, I think, exciting and shows some promise for the future with this team is the fact that Jamal Agnew's 64-yard punt return.
Yes.
He is now, since entering the NFL in 2017, his 4 returns for touchdowns lead the league. So it is really a good sign that they're starting to get more out of that. I would have liked to have seen maybe some younger guys in the defensive backfield. You know, they talked an awful lot about trying to set the foundation and give some guys some opportunities. Aruwarie, wasn't out there very much today. It's tough to see, the older guys on defense who are kind of the linchpin of this team not really performing and having some breakdowns in coverages.
Well, it's been a very disappointing year for the Detroit Lions. Jen, just one game left to play as the Lions head home to face the Packers at Ford Field in Week 17. What do you want to see from the Lions in this final game?
Well, it'll be interesting to see what goes on tomorrow night, because whatever happens between the Packers and the Vikings in Minnesota, that's going to depend a lot on what the Packers are actually playing for. Do they want to play spoiler? Sure they do, but I think they just need to get a win, because I think going into the offseason with 9 straight losses is really tough, and it's going to hang over them. It's going to hang over this coaching regime. Granted, they are coming back, but that's a really tough thing. I think just even a win against a Packers team that has already locked up the division, I think would be just something big for them to at least hang on to.
Well, we have much more to come here in our post-game show from Denver. We will have press conferences coming up in just a bit, but before we get to that, take a look at some of the positive plays from the Lions today at Mile High.
Blitz. Kerryon Johnson was in. Plow going deep, and he's got him downfield. Galladay works on Marshall. Nice catch. The first game back in Denver since he was released in 2014. 6 years of Bronco, 26-yard try. 3-0 Detroit. And Agnew will try to dance. He gets by one, gets by others, and there he goes with the punter to beat. Gets by Wadman. You can kiss him goodbye. He's got a kick return touchdown. Now he's got a punt return touchdown. 3rd and 2. Plow. Galladay digging, turning, lunging. Touchdown! Lott goes 25 of 33 for 192 and a short touchdown pass. Lindsey for 108 on the ground. And win number 6 for the Denver Broncos.
Would you rather sling in or go to a party? For Pepper, the dog. Oh no! Rabies outbreak! Better get home right away. And Sling.
Get the #1 live TV streaming service for less at Sling.com.
Okay, so, obviously a tough ball game out there. Give Coach Fangio and his staff credit. I thought they did a good job. I thought their players played hard, and, they made some plays when they needed to in the end. So, it was a tough game. I thought our guys played hard. I thought they battled, but we just didn't make enough plays when we needed to. I thought we started off fast, got going early, which was good, but really couldn't sustain anything. And then just, in the end, they were able to kind of just make more plays, create some momentum, and generate some plays that, we couldn't recover from. So I think from that standpoint, like I said, give them credit. They did a good job. They coached and played better than we did today. And, we got a lot of work to do. We got one more week coming up, and, we know that's it's a busy week, but it's an exciting week for us to go back home and play against one of the best teams in the league.
Matt, do you kind of feel like this was kind of a symbol of the season? You guys did fight, you did come out and take the lead, you did have a chance, and it seemed like it's kind of a replay game we've seen.
I don't really compare them all right now. I think for us, look, it's what the game was. Game was it was hard. Thought the guys were trying to do some things right. They fought from that end, but in the end, just couldn't make enough plays. That was really it. We got to coach it better. We got to play better. We got to make sure we come through in those situations where we need some plays made and put our guys in some better situations from that standpoint to do that. Really in all 3 phases. I think it's it's all of it. So we had some good plays out there, which is positive. That's for sure, but not enough.
What kind of lift coaching do you think you got from the return for the
Yeah, it's a big point, big play in the game. I thought, Agnew did a great job. They did a great job of blocking, setting up the lanes, and I thought at that point it kind of, maybe gave us a little bit of a chance to get ahead and get going from that aspect of it. I think the Broncos, they responded well. They came back and fought. They're a tough team too. Coach Fangio, he's trying to do the same thing. He's trying to build a tough team, and that's a tough team. They fight, and they'll play 60 minutes, and we got to play 60 minutes, and sometimes in the end, it's whoever makes more plays, and they did. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I thought he ran hard. I thought, certainly he's got great vision, so I thought that was good. There was a couple of plays where I thought he saw the hole really well. Some others maybe, we'll go back and look at it on film, but others were, it looked like we got to read it a little bit better from that standpoint. But, I thought those guys were trying to run the ball hard from that edge, especially in the second half when we kind of knew we needed the game to settle down a little bit. We needed to run the ball a little bit and kind of get, the momentum slowed down, and thought they were able to do that, for the most part.
Yeah, is it easy or not for your team to block out, draft position and all the other stuff that people talk about as the season comes nears an end?
Yeah.
Do you block that out? Do you think about the future in any
Sure.
moment or anything?
I mean, I don't. I think I'm pretty well trained to just kind of stay within the week and make sure I'm focused on the task at hand. I do think that the kids nowadays, they get a lot of information from a lot of different sources, and it's hard. But I think our group's been able to just come to work every day to understand what we got to do to get better that week, and what we got to do to try to give ourselves a chance to go out and play well on Sunday. So I think from that standpoint, the guys they've tried to block all that stuff out, the distractions.
It seems pretty obvious. The key thing was there were 2 long drives with touchdowns there at the end, and you just couldn't answer that.
Yeah. Well, certainly we don't want to give up the points in those situations. I thought we had a couple key third downs where we needed to get off the field. Thought we had a couple opportunities. I think there was some penalties through the course there that obviously kept the drives alive, kept things going for them that I didn't like. That certainly, hurt us in the end. And then execution. We had some execution plays out there with some guys in different spots. Saw some plays they hadn't seen before, and we need to react better to those and do a better job of coaching them and playing against those particular situations. So, that was really it. They made some of those big plays when they needed to, certainly.
I know you always have a next man up mentality, but how big was the loss of Jelani?
Yeah.
In that game, did you have any update on that?
Yeah. Jelani's going to be out, here for a while. We're going to get it evaluated when we get back. So, that was really unfortunate for us. He's a tough kid. He came and made a good hit on the sideline, and, it happened. So, certainly, those are hard when you lose your inside linebacker from that standpoint. I thought Jalen and Steve Longa tried to come in and do a good job, certainly from that aspect of they don't necessarily have the combined experience or play numbers that those other guys have had out there. So, there was a lot moving on the fly here with those guys pretty quick, but I thought they handled it pretty well from that standpoint. It always affects communication and alignments and all that stuff. So, from that aspect of it, I thought those guys, they tried to do it the right way. I'm not sure yet. No, I don't know.
Did Carrion run about how you thought he would run, or look about how you thought he would look?
I mean, for me, from that standpoint, I don't measure it before I see it. So, I think from that standpoint, I thought there was some, like I said, there was some plays out there where I thought he made a couple good cuts. Saw the hole pretty well, which was good to see. A lot of that come back. I thought it got better, as the game went on, and maybe there's some plays early in the game that, we got to just take a look at from that standpoint. But again, I think those guys tried to run the ball hard in the second half. I thought that was something that we needed to do. We talked about it at halftime about trying to settle the game down a little bit with the run game, and they were trying to do that, certainly.
And what was the main reason would you say you felt you wanted to see him today, play him out there today?
As far as what?
Because he hadn't played all year, and the game didn't mean anything in the standings, but what were you thinking was?
Every game means something. That's why we play. That's why we come to work every day. If it didn't mean anything, then no one would show up. So it means something. It means something to carry on. I think he wanted to play. I think, as a team, it was great to have him out there. As his teammates wanted him out there, he wanted to be out there. So, that's good. It's a good thing.
More questions? Anything else?
Okay. All right. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Well, certainly tough news from head coach Matt Patricia that Jelani Tavai's shoulder injury looks to be a longer-term injury. Quarterback David Blau was 12 for 24 and 117 yards today. He just came to the podium to speak with media about the disappointing day for the Lions here in Denver. Here's what he had to say. What do you take away from this game? I mean, obviously it's been a disappointing last couple of weeks, but what do you take away from something like this?
Yeah, I think we'll have to go back and look at the film and see how we can improve, but Denver made more plays than we did. I think at the end of the day, I think that's what it comes down to, and they've got great players on the other side of the ball who stepped up and made great plays, and it was tough for us to get anything going on offense. We just got to execute better across the board. It starts with me. And so I'll go back and look at it and improve and keep growing and moving forward, and give them credit. They earned it today, and it's frustrating, but we'll get back to work.
How did you help time with the sacks today? What did you feel like was going on with that?
A couple of those are on me, really. Got to get the ball out, got to get some, can't have negative plays, things that we've learned from and grown from in the past, but sometimes, those guys are, that's what they get paid to do too, and they're great players, and so I got to get the ball out. Can't take negative plays, but they're good players up front. They really are.
It was the first time you had Kerryon Johnson back on the field today. What did you think of what he added to the offense?
Yeah, he's tough. He really played hard and had some great runs there on that touchdown drive in the third quarter, and some great runs early. And when we could get him going and stay ahead of the chains, we were in good shape. When we shot ourselves in the foot, whether it's penalties or I'd take a sack, that's when we sputtered on offense. But Kerryon, it was good to have him back, that's for sure.
We had Kerryon and
And
Bo.
Bo.
When you have both of those guys going at full speed, what do you think that backfield could be like?
Yeah, those guys look good today, and it kind of gave us an identity running the ball. We were able, to get in some second and manageable, third and shorts, and it's because of their ability to run the ball. And we had good push up front all day, and I think it's good. It really is good to have those guys back. They played hard. They were both warriors, fighting through the injuries, coming back, and I know I appreciate them.
Just one game left of the season. What do you want to see from your guys next week against Packers?
Yeah, we're going to go fight. That's for sure. We're going to go give them everything we got. Ready for them to come to our place, and we'll be ready to go and go back to work and just cut it loose, let it rip, and just see if we can go get one at the end of the year here.
How important is it to you guys to get a win? I mean, a lot of people are scoreboard watching at this time of the year, but I know you guys, that's important to you. What does it mean to this locker room to try and finish with a win?
Yeah, the guys in there, Coach Patricia, they work so hard. Personally, I want to see what they've reaped. I want them to reap what they sow. They work so incredibly hard, and it doesn't mean we deserve one. It means we got to execute on Sundays, and but I want those guys to experience the fruits of the hard work, and I think that's what we can fight for this week and fight for each other, and we got one left, but we'll go cut it loose. I think, we talk about it every week. That's what these games come down to is one-score games, 3 points, 7 points here, the 4-point plays in the red zone. And, we talk about it a lot. We just got to execute better in those situations. So, yeah, obviously the first 12 weeks or so, we're all coming down to pretty much one possession. And, you go back and watch the tape and try to learn and improve and capitalize on those mistakes that you make that could have swung the game the other way. And, we just got to make those plays when it matters. And Coach has done a good job just showing us where we've fallen short, and we just got to come and do it as the guys on the field. Cool. Thanks, guys.
Want to stay home and sling, but you don't have a good excuse?
You gonna come by?
I would, but I've got laryngitis. Laryngitis. My cat might die. I would, but I totally don't want to.
Get the #1 live TV streaming service for less at Sling.com.
Welcome back to Lions Postgame Live, presented by Sling TV. I'm Tori Petry. We are covering the Lions' 27-17 loss here in Denver to the Denver Broncos. Of course, we've been watching scoreboards across the league today as a lot of the results determine the draft order. So let's take a look at how the draft results are looking at this point in the day. Right now, the Lions hold the third pick in the NFL draft. Of course, there is one game left to play in the season, so a lot can happen between now and then. Of course, Miami beat Cincinnati in overtime today. That means the Bengals locked up the #1 draft pick this year. The Giants beat the Redskins in overtime as well, which means the Lions' schedule is set. They will face the Redskins at home next year, as they are set to face the NFC East loser next year at home. So that is set. Their schedule for 2020 is set and final. Then let's take a look at what could happen for the Lions in this final week of the season to see what happens with the draft. The Lions could get as high as the #2 draft pick. Of course, that would mean that they do not win next week against the Packers, but they would also need the Redskins to win next week. They would need to hop the Redskins in the draft order, as currently it goes Cincinnati, Washington, Detroit Lions. And the Redskins play the Cowboys next week, so they would have to be able to beat the Cowboys, who are very much in the playoff race right now. So the Cowboys have a lot on the line, and the Redskins would have to spoil the Cowboys' hopes next week if the Lions were to be able to get that #2 draft pick. Of course, a lot of the NFC North hinges on what happens between the Packers and the Vikings on Monday Night Football tomorrow night. Of course, if the Vikings win, that puts a lot of pressure on Green Bay for Week 17. That means that Week 17 game is big for them. They need to win that game against the Lions to win out in the NFC North. So that is a big game for the Packers if they lose to the Vikings tomorrow night. So a lot can still happen between now and then, but currently the Lions at the #3 spot in the 2020 NFL draft. We will see what happens with that. Let's get back to our coverage of today's game here in Denver. Jamal Agnew had that impressive punt return touchdown. He spoke with the media in the locker room just a bit ago about that play. Take a look.
Game of the season, this is it for you guys. Talk to me about how you guys want to finish up next week.
I mean, first off, we got to get a win. We got the best team in the division right now coming in our house. We got to take some pride, and we got to get this win.
Yeah.
Nothing else to it. We got to win.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jamal.
Appreciate you, Lon. I mean, it's not really about the streak. It's really just winning makes everything better, honestly. We're a close-knit team, so, we're going to keep our spirits high, but, we just got to get this dub. We all feel it. We all know it. We're working hard, but we just got to finish, I feel like. Definitely did. Haven't had many opportunities this year, but, I was happy to, give us that spark a little bit in the first half. We definitely needed it. We started a little bit slow, but just be able to get that spark, I'm just grateful for that opportunity.
Can you walk us through what you saw on the play as it opened up?
I mean, everybody blocked it pretty well. He was doing the end-over-end Aussie kick. I think he was trying to force a fair catch. But the jammers on the right side held up real good. So I knew I had room, so I caught it and just let my feet do the rest, honestly.
What's this season been like for you? I mean, again, limited opportunities, dealt with injury a little bit. Just it's just kind of a nice, way to.
It's definitely nice, just because I haven't had many opportunities this year. A lot of teams have been either kicking it out the end zone or trying to force fair catches. But I'm just grateful for that opportunity. Honestly, I knew they don't come in bunches, but just to take advantage of that and help the team, try to get a win. Just happy to do that.
Well, that just about does it for us here on our penultimate episode of Lions Postgame Live, presented by Sling TV here in Denver. We have one more postgame show to go, so we hope you join us next week after the Lions play the Packers at Ford Field. Herman Moore and I will have all of the details for you after that game, breaking down the Lions' entire 2019 season. Before we wrap up here today, I want to remind you that Sling TV has an offer for you to get 40% off your first month of Sling TV if you go to sling.com/Lions. Thank you so much for joining us here on our post-game show presented by Sling TV. We will see you next week. For DetroitLions.com, I'm Tori Petry.
Would you rather sling in or go to a party? For Pepper, the dog. Who's ready to party? Perfect. Oh no, rabies outbreak. Better get home right away. Rabies? And slang. My man Leroy, top-notch acting.
Nothing beats the joy of slinging in. You could save hundreds a year versus cable with America's #1 live TV streaming service. Learn more at sling.com.